Hello, St. Anne Parish, and welcome to this week's Quick Things and Conversation, a special edition because there is a conversation. You don't have to just listen to me. We have some great women of our parish, who, in fact, who will be part of that conversation. Just some very important announcements, though, before we begin. Our Lenten Voices series begins this Thursday at 6:30 with Father John Hegel. With this email is a link to that presentation. So at 6:30 on Thursday, you can connect with that or anytime after. So as I mentioned at Mass this weekend, Father John has fond memories of preaching parish missions here at St. Anne back in the days of Father McKillop and Father Bryce. And he preached missions when I was in Stevens Point, probably the most popular preacher that we had in that series. So I hope you'll join us, Father Hegel, 6:30 on Thursday, and anytime after. He'll be preaching on the Beatitudes. Also with this email are links to several different Lenten opportunities. I'd recommend the Ignatian Lent series. You sign up with that, and then every day they'll send you an email with some aspect of to deepen your prayer life, some scriptural awareness that that might be new and encouraging, challenging. So that is with this. Also a link to, you can sign up for daily emails from Bishop Bob Barron, which are wonderful as well. So I mean, you don't probably want to do all of it, but there are several things to choose from. Also, I'd ask you to be attentive in these weekly emails to the weekly video from Catholic Relief Services, which bring us a better awareness of how our support of the Operation Rice Bowl Lenten almsgiving program works. Where does our money go? What does it do? And so these weekly videos help us to gain a better awareness of that. And I'm really excited. I'm in conversation with folks at Catholic Relief Services in Baltimore to do one of these quick things conversations with one of their country representatives, actually in Burkina Faso in Africa. So we're working out the details of how we can do that. We think it's amazing that we're talking here today, but I'll be communicating in a few weeks with somebody in Burkina Faso. So watch for more on that. Also with this email is a link to a video from the Archdiocese of Chicago, Bishop Bob Casey, who I was actually in seminary with a long time ago, talking about the importance of us receiving the vaccine for COVID-19 and really how it's a very Catholic Christian thing to do. So I encourage you to take a few minutes, only 2 or 3 minutes long, on that COVID vaccine video. I think that takes care of the quick things. So here's the gist of our conversation today. Since we're not having fish fries this Lent because of the pandemic and the difficulty of people working in proximity to one another and the difficulty of having a dining room open to folks, I didn't want it to pass without any kind of attention. So I've invited some folks to join in a conversation about our fish fry tradition at St. Anne's. So we'll start with our guest who is furthest away and who has been involved with the fish fry the longest, and that would be Madeline Beeler, who is reporting today from Florida. Madeline, where are you in Florida?
At Winter Springs, Florida.
Winter Springs, Florida, with your daughter, correct?
Right, with my daughter.
That's where she's spending the winter. But let me tell you, Madeline is staying connected with us at St. Anne's. She has commented on a couple emails and things that have gone out. So it's fun to hear from her and wonderful that she could be with us today. So also with us is Sandy Gilgee, and Dorothy Rutz, who have both been involved with the fish fry for a long time. But Madeline, you've been part of it since the very beginning, right?
Well, yes, I guess so, sort of. With Father Stanley, yes.
Can you tell us, well, so maybe just tell us, how did it get started? What was what transpired?
Well, I just know that Father Stanley, I guess we called him that, or Father Abe, and Marion Brandel, and Dolores Bachhuber, I think they went down to Stevens Point. And Father Slewicki he had some friend down there that had this fish shop, I guess they called it. Anyway, and that's where he got the recipe. That's all I remember about it. but we really, and Miss Brandel was very happy to get going. She was very, she was able to take care of things, get things going between her and Dolores Steckbauer.
Okay.
So that's all I know. That's all it got started anyway. And we just, and the parishioners just, I don't know how we all got going. I don't
I think
remember.
that wasn't the first one, Madeline, when Father Fisher went to somewhere in Minnesota, the Oak Supper Club, and he had a friend there, Chef Kelly, and he came, that's what I read, that he came and did the first one. And then the next year, Father Chalicki went to Stevens Point and got that recipe.
Oh, I
Did
didn't
you
know
ever
that.
hear of that? Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, the story I heard was that Father Fisher got that recipe from the hot fish shop in Stevens Point, but some priests did. But then my question is, why would the hot fish shop in Stevens Point give up this great recipe? But
I don't,
He was a good friend. Father Fisher had this man who was supposedly a good friend of his. So,
well,
but
and in
we
that
kept
day,
that
people
recipe.
wouldn't have been seen as competition. People wouldn't have probably driven from Wausau to Stevens Point, or very rarely would that have happened.
Right, yeah.
I was not aware of that. It must have been before my time.
The parish was
Right.
almost brand new at that time. I mean, it was this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and lots of young people, such as yourselves, huh?
We were young families, all young families. Yes, I remember. Yeah. Clarence
Dorothy,
Winslow.
what's your first memory of the fish fry?
My first memory of the first fish fry was taking orders in the hall. And they didn't have no automatic registers or anything like that. So I would take the orders and fill out the slip. And then I'd hand it over to Dorothy Wenzel, and she would total all the dinners up and rip a little slip off on the bottom. There was numbers, and they'd calculate and send it into the kitchen. So it's not automated like it is today.
No, Sandy, they had it a lot harder back in that. Well, you did too, right, Sandy?
When I started, I think it was 1984, we just had a wooden box. And it had a little thing, and you hit that and it opened it, and it had little compartments, put the money, but nothing to add. We added it all in our heads. So I don't know how much money I gained or lost for the third year.
And they used to actually collect the money when we were doing it, when Dorothy and I were taking the orders. Then there was a register. I know Leah Matrani ran it for a while, and Bev Van Dyck way back, she would sit there, and that's when they paid for it, and that's when they would get their order then, So.
When they made this book in 1976, so the fish fry was almost 25 years old when they made, and it said in 1976, they made $10,000, and the fish fries were $2 a piece. So that was a lot of fish fries, $10,000 worth of at $2 a piece.
I remember Sammy going and peeling potatoes because they didn't have French fries at that time. And we made our, and we soaked them in some kind of water solution. And Thursday night was always potato peeling night.
Right, my husband, yes, and Miles Hughes.
Yes.
Bob Wachtel. Yes, all group were all sitting there peeling potatoes and having a great time.
So would they peel the potatoes, Dorothy, to make the French fries?
Yes.
They made homemade, they were homemade French fries.
Homemade.
Right.
They peeled every potato. Mm-hmm.
They did.
Wow.
Yes.
For $2 a plate.
$2. And they made $10,000. So what's that, 5,000? It had to be more than 5,000.
I think if you put that into perspective, it's a much greater profit than we make now.
Yes, yes.
No.
When I first started, it was all those people like Madeline and Clarence Wenzel and all those old timers, and they were such a good example for the next generation. They had such good times.
Philadelphia, Art
Oh.
Seidel go down there. I remember
Yeah.
every Friday, Connie Seidel and all them from church would go down, and Dorothy Wenzel work in the kitchen. I didn't go down on Friday morning because I had to go home and make dessert because I got involved with the desserts.
So like, if you think that it was Clarence and Dorothy Wenzel, Herb and Virginia Schaff, Marcella Hargraves, Phil Adamski, the Binkowskis, Madeline and Harold Bueller, Otto Kryl and Mary, always made the coffee. All those people were such good people, and most of them are gone now.
Madeline, what was your job?
Well, I just did about just about everything. I worked on takeout. I worked on cabbage, mixing the cabbage, and I remember that was one of my biggest jobs. Was mixing the cabbage salad, the coleslaw.
Coleslaw.
That was my favorite.
When did you start making the batter, Madeline? When did you start making the batter?
Well, I had nothing to do with that. Marie Wex, I remember she was in charge of that. I think most of it, as long as I can remember. And then she's the only one I remember.
But you took over.
But I thought you
And
took
I-
over for her.
Yes. And I
Because when
took,
I came, you were making the batter.
what year? Oh gosh, I think when I started working down at St. Anne's for the hot lunch program. I think it was right around that time that I was introduced to that. I really liked that though. I enjoyed that most of all.
When has it always been like the huge event that it is? I mean, I came to the St. Anne's Fish Fry once in 1993. I was an intern at St. Mark's, and I of course had heard about the St. Anne Fish Fry even prior to being at St. Mark's in Rothschild. But I remember coming to it and just being amazed by the kind of the rush of the crowd and just what an elaborate production it was. It hasn't always been quite what it is now, has it?
No, well, it was pretty much so. I remember
Okay.
I think so.
when I first started working on the hot lunch program, I found a recipe at 29 Supermarket. They used to have recipes hanging where you could just like for baked fish, and I picked that recipe up and I made some of that at home, and then of course I took it to church and I talked about that because we just had to have something else, So we tried that baking fish down there, and they agreed with it, said it worked out good. So that's how we started with the baked fish.
Okay, so there was no pushback. Usually when we try to introduce something new, there's always a little resistance, right?
Right?
Not for that.
No.
Have there been any other changes in the menu over the years? I know there's fish tacos now, which probably weren't there at the beginning.
Oh, right. That was a new thing. And macaroni and cheese, I believe that was added on later. And I don't know what else at that time. I wasn't too much involved in things then, except for I can remember them making macaroni and cheese when I was still making the batter. But that was about the last thing I did down there.
How many years ago was that, Madeline?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know, since my husband passed away. Oh gosh,
90.
it's almost 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Okay.
Yes, at least that, if it's not.
Almost.
Well, my daughter said 30, so.
Almost.
Okay. Okay.
Almost.
Oh, anyway, so yes, and gosh, but it just seemed like we just had so much fun working. I enjoyed it. I know every time I could get down there on Friday and work. Oh, it was a joy.
Well, it is fun, isn't it? Don't you
It
think,
is.
Dorothy?
Mm.
Well, it's the camaraderie is fantastic, because people come in, and at least for me, because I worked on the pie, so that, oh, do you have this dessert or that dessert? And usually they were asking for lemon pie or, you know, the blueberry dessert or, and they know which ladies made certain desserts. Did they bring dessert this week? Because I want a piece of their cherry pie or whatever.
Or pecan pie.
Yes, pecan pie was a big hit.
You know, there were, Marion Brandel must have been in charge for about 20 years, I think, that I, you know, figured out the time. And then after her, I think it was Jean Steckbauer. And then
Yeah.
Felix Binkowski, Brad Foley,
Felix, yeah, they were before.
Yeah. Mary Jo Anopa, Mary Lewandowski, Vernell
Yeah.
Tyson, Tom Betchwars, and now we have a wonderful young man, Kendall Gulo.
We have
who's been
somebody by
doing-
the name of Brad though, too, in there.
What?
We had a person by the name of Brad. He was married to
Brad
me.
Foley.
Yes.
Yeah, he was after Felix, Brad Foley.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he married that. I don't know if he met that Kathy McDonald at the fish fry. Did he?
I
Then
so.
he married her? I don't know.
Very Kathy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Danny,
Like,
those were the chair people that you were listing, correct?
yes, yes.
Yes.
And
Um,
Madeline's daughter, Michelle, is part of the leadership group right now too.
Yes.
And
There's always, you know, every Friday night, there's Bueller's there, Madeline, and then Michelle and Michelle's daughter and Madeline's two sons. There's always a bunch of Bueller's there, right, Madeline?
Yes.
You
they
trained
were.
them right.
Yes. I finally got them involved in things.
there's
Although-
also a matchmaking quality to the fish fry. Does anyone want to talk about Connie Seidel?
Yes, he
Or-
met Art at the, he came, well, he was living with his brother. He had a brother in town, Joe. Joe was a dentist and he was living in Janesville and he didn't like it there. He was from Medford and he came to live with his brother Joe and then he got involved because Joe was a member of St. Anne's. So then that's how he met Connie at the fish fries. And after the fish fries were over with, Linda said that he asked her for a date. And that's where they met. And they were married in October of '56. But what year, she didn't remember what year her dad came to
Okay.
St. Anne's. But
So we could have a little mini series, fish fry romances or something. Well, what would you say what's the biggest change that's occurred over the years?
Gosh, well, the big fish was one of the things.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
would say.
Uh-huh.
And now,
I think, yeah.
Well,
Things
I
have
don't-
pretty much stayed the same. I
It's the
think, don't you?
technology, huh?
I don't know.
The
Yes.
the cashier technology.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
very much, very
And-
much.
And the
because-
potato peelers, of course. We have a new, we do have a machine that peels them, right? Or
No,
we-
now they're
No,
bought.
we close them. You're right.
Yeah.
But for
Say
the
that again,
potato
we do have
salad,
we do have a machine that peels them?
Not that I know of. No.
Okay.
I know, it's not.
So this is just, has there ever been a proposal or conversation to serve beer?
didn't they used to serve beer? Well, Felix always had beer in
I
the
think
back
what-
room.
I think so. I know they tried it anyway, whether they were able to or not. I didn't know if they could get a license.
Well, they would need a license, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not proposing that. I think it's good that we don't, and because we're a school, that creates all kinds of issues when you're serving beer and things like that.
Mhm.
In a
But do
drug-free
you
zone.
remember when Felix Binkowski, he always had liquid refreshments back in the boiler room back there, or the janitor's room. The guys would take a break every once in a while because it got pretty hot at those machines, you know, frying that fish and that. You know, Felix, he liked a good
Yes.
time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they always had parties after. once a- Not after fish fries, but they just wouldn't have it.
Another
At the
time.
end of the season, they did. We
Yeah.
always had a party after the end for all the workers,
Yeah.
all the deliverers.
Right.
after they didn't have to peel potatoes anymore, then Sammy got involved in delivering. And that was another thing for carryouts.
Yes.
That really expanded every year. There was more and more.
You're
Oh,
right.
that's,
When I know a lot, I would visit, I have visited, well, Jean Hermansky would be one who I had visited, she was so looking forward to getting fish fries delivered again.
Yeah.
That was a couple years ago.
and she worked for many years at the fish fry too, Jean did.
Yeah, he did. We used to wrap fish with us for
Mhm.
baking.
Yeah,
We had a group. We had, let me see, what was his name? That Ritz.
John Ritz.
John Ritz used to, he used to tear the paper, the aluminum foil.
and Diane Rest too, wasn't her? Dolores Hollis, Dorothy
Diane-
Hollis.
Oh, yes. And Dorothy Hollis. She
Yeah.
helped. Yes. We always had a good crowd there. I wish I could remember all of them.
You're doing great, Madeline. You're doing great.
Well, I wish I could do, I really, I think about these things but I can't remember names. as well.
You're
Well,
doing
join the
great.
club, Madeline, and most of
Yeah.
us don't have it. Some of us have no excuse.
You know, counting money, Father, was something too. After it was over, we'd take all the money into the library, which is now the closet, and we'd count it. And then Felix Binkowski and Herb Schaff, they would put it in the bank bags and they'd walk out with all that money and take it to the bank, you know, no safes or anything. They just took
Yeah.
it down there.
Yeah,
It was a different time.
for sure, for sure.
Right.
In
I
so many ways and in every aspect of life, right? So,
We
Yeah.
have to mention Molly Padres because she was a faithful worker on the pies. She ran it for years and years and years.
Okay.
I think Bev Bandock was before her because it was always involved with the Fatima Council.
Right.
Well,
And-
we probably could have nabbed Molly for this conversation too.
Yeah.
Where is Molly still at home or where is she? Do you know?
She's at
Dorothy?
home. Yep.
Is she? Wow.
Yep. Just waiting out the pandemic.
Yeah.
So,
I think her
Well-
daughter helps with the pies, doesn't she, Dorothy?
Alice,
Molly?
yeah, no, Nancy, sorry, Nancy, Alice Balk, Nancy, Chesley, and Dorothy Schrader, of course. I kind of turned it over to her because it got to the point where it was a few too many hours for me at one time. So I asked Dorothy to help and she graciously accepted it. I accepted it from Beaver Dens.
I would have
Molly-
never known, Dorothy, that you had cut
Michael-
back your hours. You're there all the time.
Well, let's put it this way, the feet get tired standing.
Okay, okay. Well, we've
Yeah, I
lost our picture of Sandy, so I want to do some confessions before we go. Do
Okay.
you all like fish fry?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I'm the only one who doesn't.
You don't.
Oh,
I've told people this when the bishop asked me about coming to St. Anne's. I said, you know, Bishop, that's a fish fry parish, and I'm not really a fish fry fan. And he said, well, you'll get over it. So
But you like the desserts, don't you, Father?
what's that, Dorothy?
You like the desserts?
I mean,
oh, yes.
I do. You know what? And I always have it. I have a fish fry every week, but it's not like something I would like now this Lent when we're not having it. I won't be getting it from anywhere else.
Oh.
Oh,
mhm.
But
all right.
I will say that, I mean, I eat it enough and like it enough that I know that ours is really good. So-
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not going to be promoting other fish fries even now this year, because why would we do that when ours is the best?
Yeah.
And it will all taste it'll taste even better than ever next year, right?
Right, right.
So-
I hope.
Any other closing memories or thoughts before we go?
Well, I just don't know what to say. I just enjoyed working when I did. I miss them. I really did. When I wasn't able to get back there and work with everyone. You think you dream about those things, or you're just feel like you're with them, though, in thought. I
It's
guess.
fun to reminisce and talk about all the people that we did work with over the
Yes.
years, right? That's the most fun. Yeah.
Right, it was. It was a great time. We always enjoyed it. Yes,
You know, that's the thing about a parish is that we talk about it, we speak of a communion of saints, and those are the people we gather with at Mass on Sunday. They're not there physically with us anymore, but they are still there. And even as we gather to peel potatoes or clean fish or sell, cut pies and things, or take money, Sandy,
Yeah.
those people are kind of in the shadows around us, and their memories and witness still kind of encourage us. So that's why this kind of conversation is so important.
I know. I'm so blessed to have been able to work with all the people I did work with on Fish Fries, at Fish Fries. It was my fun time. Yes.
Well, we're blessed to have you with us today, Madeline, from warm and sunny Florida, although it is warm and sunny central Wisconsin as we're having this conversation as well. So
Oh, great. That's good news.
thanks to
Wow.
all of you for your participation in our talk today and for your many years of being part of our great tradition here at St. Anne's. I want to conclude with a prayer, which will be a reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. The whole idea of fish fries kind of comes from our encouragement of fasting during Lent, which is a bit we could debate that a little bit, but I want to share this passage from Isaiah that speaks of fasting. Thus says the Lord God, cry out full-throated and unsparingly. Lift up your voice like a trumpet blast. Tell my people of their wickedness and the house of Jacob their sins. They seek me day after day and desire to know my ways. Like a nation that has done what is just and not abandoned the law of their God. They ask me to declare what is due them, pleased to gain access to God. Why do we fast and you do not see it? Afflict yourselves and you take no note of it. Lo, on your fast day, you carry out your own pursuits and drive all your laborers. Yes, your fast ends in quarreling and fighting, striking with wicked claw. Would that today you might fast so as to make your voice heard on high. Is this the manner of fasting I wish, of keeping a day of penance? That a man bow his head like a reed, lie in sackcloth and ashes? Do you call this a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? This rather is the fasting that I seek, releasing those bound unjustly, untying the thongs of the yoke, setting free the oppressed, breaking every yoke, sharing your bread with the hungry, sheltering the oppressed and the homeless, clothing the naked when you see them, and not turning your back on your own. Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your wound shall quickly be healed. Your vindication shall go before you, and the glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and God will say, here I am. Amen.